I didn't have a clear sense of what I was going to do. But I did have a sense of right and wrong, and kind of was impacted by what was going on, beginning to go on in the South, particularly with Emmett Till. And I mean, politics, I'm back to the political question. I was very much aware of what's going on in Emmett Till. I was very much aware of what was going on in Montgomery. So, but I didn't have any, I was just aware of it. And I had a sense of it, but not, any great, any great depth in terms of understanding. When I got to Howard, there was places all over the place. I mean, Washington was a very segregated city at the time. Whether you're talking about housing, whether you were talking about black and white ads in the Washington Post, whether you were talking about the police department, whether you're talking about trying clothes on in the various department stores. I mean, all those things existed. So I was faced with it in a way that I wasn't faced with it in New York. Also, at that point with the sit-ins, so there was a small group of people who decided to do stuff at Glen Echo in Washington, and we formed the Nonviolent Action Group. And some of the people who later went on to really be prominent in SNCC were all part of that. And we did two things. We did sympathetic actions for things going on in the South, but we went out to the Eastern Shore of Maryland and demonstrated there. We and Stokely Carmichael, who was in school with me at the time, was famous for helping to organize these demonstrations because he would promise, okay, we're going to go demonstrate, but we got a great party after the demonstrations. And and so young people want to do that. Some of the other things that we did while I was at Howard, I mean, RFK Stadium, when the Redskins were first here, we picketed it because there were no African American football players. We Route 40, which was segregated, the route from Washington to New York, we were, involved in those demonstrations. We worked with Julius Hobson, who was at Core Senior, we were his shock troops. I mean, Julius was, older than we were, but when he wanted a demonstration, he would call on us to be, the shock troops. And we did other things at Howard. When we had the outside things that we did in terms of demonstrations, but we also created Project Awareness. And Project Awareness, I mean, the first three things that we did, I mean, I'll never forget them. The first was a debate between Bayard Rustin and Malcolm X on the question of segregation versus integration. The second was a debate with Norman Thomas and Herman Kahn on the question of thermonuclear warfare. And the third was a symposium with Jim Baldwin, Ossie Davis, John Killens, moderated by Sterling Brown, and for the after party, Sidney Poitier flew in so that just to see what the boys were doing.